What if everything you thought you knew about your past was a lie? What if the man who trained you, the one you trusted with your life, was hiding a secret so dangerous that it could change the world forever? Sergeant Derrick Cole thought he was just another soldier, doing his duty. But when he's handcuffed by the cops and dragged into a courtroom, he uncovers a twisted conspiracy that links his name to a series of deadly clones, *clones of himself. Now, he's not just fighting for survival, he's fighting to stop a terrifying force he helped create. A shadow army of soldiers built to replace him. And someone powerful wants him dead. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted, and there's no escape? This is the story of betrayal, blood, and revenge, of a man who must confront his past in order to destroy the monster he never meant to create. Stay with us until the end, because the truth will shock you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be the first to uncover the secrets behind Derrick's fight for redemption. You won't want to miss the shocking twist in the final moments, ***. The courtroom was silent. So silent, you could hear the ceiling fan clicking. The judge had not arrived yet. But the defendant had. Derrick Cole stood between two armed officers. Wrists cuffed. An orange jumpsuit stretched over his broad frame. His jaw was clenched. His eyes fixed on the empty seat where the judge would sit. In the back row, reporters whispered. One of them tapped a phone, recording everything. Another murmured, "He was a sniper, right?" The one beside her replied, "A Marine. Afghanistan. 4 tours." She blinked. Why is he on trial like a street thug? Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered. Some held signs, "Free Cole." Others screamed into megaphones. But inside, the silence grew colder. A single woman sat in the front pew. Older. Steel gray hair pinned back. Tears pooled but never fell. Derrick did not look at her. He could not. He had seen her before. The mother of the boy. The boy who died. The door creaked open. Everyone turned. It was not the judge. It was a man in a full-dress uniform. Stars on his shoulders. Medals shining like fire. A 4-star general. No one moved. Even the bailiff stood stunned. The general's boots echoed against the tile. He did not look left. He did not look right. He walked straight to Derrick. Then, he stopped. And saluted. The courtroom gasped. Derrick did not return it. He just stared. The judge entered a moment later, eyes narrowing at the unexpected guest. "Who are you?" he asked. The general did not sit. "I am here," he said slowly, "to speak truth. To undo something buried under lies." He looked around. "That man," he said, pointing at Derrick, "saved my son's life in Kandahar. He dragged him out of a burning Humvee while being shot at from both sides. My son lived another 3 years because of him. Until the PTSD took him." The general's voice cracked. "But he always said." Sergeant Cole was the bravest man he ever knew. Derrick closed his eyes. A memory flickered. Smoke. Screams. The smell of diesel and blood. The judge looked uneasy. The prosecutor cleared his throat. "General, with all due respect, the charges." But the general raised his hand. "I read the file." He turned to the gallery. He was in plain clothes. Walking back to his car. He had no weapon. But 2 rookie officers pulled up on him. Guns drawn. They did not know who he was. The room held its breath. They say he resisted. They say he reached into his waistband. The general paused. He was scratching a healing wound. From a service-related injury. There were murmurs now. Whispers. Shifting feet. The general's eyes burned. "Tell me," he said, louder now, "what kind of country arrests a decorated Marine without checking his name?" The judge banged the gavel. "Order in the court." But the general was not finished. He turned to Derrick. "I came," he said, voice low now, "to say what no one else will. I am sorry." Derrick's jaw quivered. But he said nothing. The courtroom doors opened again. A man in a black suit stepped in. Secret Service lapel pin. He whispered something to the prosecutor. The prosecutor's eyes widened. He stood, visibly shaken. "Your Honor," he said, voice cracking, "new evidence has emerged." The judge frowned. "What kind of evidence?" The prosecutor looked at Derrick. Then at the general. Then at the cameras. "It appears Sergeant Cole was targeted. Not just mistaken." More gasps. Even the woman in the front row leaned forward. "What do you mean?" the judge asked. The prosecutor swallowed. "There is footage. From a body cam. Someone tampered with it. But the original has surfaced. It shows." He stopped. The judge leaned forward. "Finish that sentence, Mr. Green." The prosecutor exhaled. "It shows that Derrick Cole never resisted. That he identified himself. That one of the officers said." He hesitated again. Then whispered, "Make it look like he's reaching." The courtroom exploded. Shouts. Cries. Chairs scraping. The judge pounded his gavel. The woman in the front pew covered her mouth. Tears now falling freely. Derrick looked up. His lips parted. But he still said nothing. The general turned to the judge. "Uncuff him." The judge looked at the bailiff. The bailiff hesitated. The general repeated. "Uncuff him. Now." Keys rattled. Metal clicked. The cuffs fell. Derrick's wrists were raw. The general took a step closer. "You were betrayed," he said. "Not just by men. But by a system." Derrick finally spoke. Only 2 words. "I know." But his voice shook. And in it was more pain than anyone could measure. The judge leaned back in his chair. His face pale. Sweat dotted his forehead. He glanced at the prosecutor. Then at Derrick. "I will call a recess," he muttered. "No," said Derrick, his voice steady now. "Let it continue." The general looked at him. "You do not need to stand here and take this." Derrick turned. Locked eyes with the general. "I stood through sniper fire. I can stand through the truth." The room hushed again. The judge sighed. Then nodded. "Very well. Mr. Green, present the new footage." A monitor was wheeled in. The lights dimmed. The video began. The timestamp blinked. The body cam shook slightly as the officer ran. 2 officers approached a man in civilian clothes. Derrick. Walking to his car. Keys in hand. "Hands where I can see them," one shouted. Derrick immediately raised both hands. Calm voice. "Marine Sergeant Derrick Cole. Retired." The officers did not flinch. "Keep your hands up." "I just said who I am," Derrick replied. He took a step back. Then one officer turned slightly. His voice muffled. But the words were clear. "Make it look like he's reaching." Gasps again. A woman cried out. The video continued. One officer lunged. Grabbed Derrick's arm. Shoved him against the car. The other struck him in the back of the knee. Derrick collapsed. No, someone shouted in the courtroom. It was the older woman. She was standing now. I was told he fought them. I was told he tried to run. She looked at Derrick. Her voice trembled. They lied. Derrick nodded once. I forgive you, he said. The woman covered her mouth again. Then, slowly, she sat. The lights came back on. Silence. Utter, aching silence. The prosecutor turned to the judge. The state withdraws all charges. And we will open an investigation into the officers involved. The judge looked stunned. He nodded. Charges dismissed. Derrick closed his eyes. A deep breath left his chest. But it did not feel like peace. The general stepped closer. This is not over, he said. Derrick looked at him. Eyes sharp. Wounded. Nothing is ever over. There was movement behind them. Reporters rushed out. Phones buzzed. The story was already spreading. But Derrick stood still. Frozen in place. The truth was out. But truth does not undo pain. Truth does not erase scars. He looked down at his wrists. At the marks. And deeper still, at the scars no one could see. The general placed a hand on his shoulder. We are going to fight this, he said. Derrick did not answer. He stepped forward. Past the table. Past the judge. Past the woman in the front row. And toward the courtroom doors. Each step echoed. Each one heavier than the last. And just before he reached the exit, a young man in a military uniform entered. He saluted. Eyes wide. Face pale. He looked just like someone Derrick once knew. The general turned sharply. Private? The young man swallowed. I have orders, he said. His hand trembled. A sealed file, from military intelligence. He held out a thick envelope. The judge frowned. On what grounds? The private hesitated. Then whispered. It has to do with why Sergeant Cole was followed in the first place. The courtroom froze again. Derrick turned slowly. What do you mean, followed? The private looked at him. Face pale. Then at the general. And said. The private's voice shook. But the words came out clear. Sergeant Cole was under surveillance. The general's eyes narrowed. Surveillance by whom? The private opened the envelope. Pulled out a document. Stamped, classified. He looked at the judge. Permission to speak off record, sir. The judge paused. Then nodded. The court reporter stopped typing. The cameras were turned off. The doors locked. The tension tightened like a noose. The private took a breath. 6 months ago, he said, Sergeant Cole accessed a restricted file. The general frowned. What file? A drone strike, in Kandahar, the private said. Target, HVT. High-value target. But there were civilians. Derrick's face went still. Like stone. He remembered. The screams. The heat. The blood on the walls of a school. I filed a report, he said quietly. Chain of command buried it. The private nodded. Your report was reopened. Quietly. Someone noticed. Someone high up. Derrick stared at him. You are saying they sent those officers, not to arrest me. The private nodded once. To silence you. The judge stood up. This is a federal matter now. He turned to the bailiff. Get the U.S. Marshal in here. But the private was not finished. There is more. He reached into the envelope again. This time, he pulled out photographs. Black and white. Grainy. One showed Derrick at a cafe. Another at a cemetery. A third. Inside his own apartment. Derrick's breath hitched. They bugged my place. The private nodded grimly. Audio surveillance. Unauthorized. Shadow op. No paper trail. The general's jaw clenched. This is treason. The judge was pale now. He reached for the phone on his bench. I am calling the Attorney General. But Derrick was not looking at him. He was staring at one of the photographs. It showed a figure behind him. In the cafe. Blurry. But familiar. I know that man, he whispered. The general turned. You sure? Derrick nodded. He walked to the photo. Tapped it. He was in my unit. In Helmand Province. The private flipped the photo over. There was a scribbled name. Staff Sergeant Jason Bowers. Derrick froze. He died in 2013. The private met his eyes. No, sir. He disappeared in 2013. Silence. A thick, choking silence. Derrick's hands curled into fists. If he is alive, and following me. The general nodded slowly. Then someone lied about his death. And they sent him to keep you quiet. The private added. There are rumors. A program, off books. Black Ops. Using former Marines as operatives. Men declared Kia but kept alive. The judge whispered, Ghost Unit. The general's voice dropped to a growl. If this is real, then this goes higher than any of us. He turned to Derrick. Are you ready to find the truth? Derrick's eyes burned. Not with fear. But with something colder. Sharper. Yes. He looked at the photo again. If Bowers is alive. Then I need to find him. And ask why. The general placed a hand on Derrick's shoulder. You will not be alone. The private nodded too. You have allies. But in the shadows beyond that courtroom. Someone else was watching. A camera lens blinked behind a vent. A red light flicked off. And a silent message was sent. Target exposed. Initiate Phase 2. A black SUV rolled down a side street near the courthouse. Tinted windows. No plates. Inside, a man stared at a tablet screen. The photo of Derrick Cole filled the display. The man wore no insignia. No badge. Only a headset. He tapped the screen twice. Zoomed in on Derrick's face. Confirmed, he muttered. He knows. A voice responded in his earpiece. Low. Distorted. Phase 2 authorized. He nodded. Then pressed a button. Inside the courthouse, the lights flickered. Only for a second. No one noticed. But the lens behind the vent turned silently. Tracking movement. Derrick stepped into the hallway. The general and the private followed. The judge remained behind, locked in a call with Washington. The moment Derrick stepped into the hallway. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. One word on the screen. Run. He stopped. Showed the screen to the general. What is this? Before anyone could answer. A piercing alarm rang out. Then a boom shook the building. Screams erupted from another floor. Smoke curled from under the stairwell door. The private reached for his radio. But it was dead. Jammed. The general shouted, "Get out, now." They rushed down the corridor. The emergency lights turned red. Strobing. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. More screams. Glass shattered behind them. A second boom. Sprinklers erupted overhead. Water poured down. But the fire was not inside. It was outside. At the parking lot. Derrick pushed through the exit door. Bright light blinded him. Smoke. Flames. The black SUV now engulfed. But the driver, gone. Vanished. The general grabbed Derrick by the arm. "We are being hunted." Derrick nodded. Eyes scanning. "There." He pointed to a maintenance tunnel near the loading dock. They ducked inside. Darkness swallowed them. But Derrick kept moving. The private fumbled with a flashlight. They reached a locked door. The general kicked it open. Stairs led down. Far below street level. Basement. Subway. No one knew. But they descended. Behind them, the tunnel door creaked. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Someone was following. Derrick raised his hand. Signaled silence. They pressed against the wall. He peeked around the corner. And froze. The figure moved slowly. Tall. Wearing desert camo. But not regulation. Black boots. Black gloves. And a scar across his jaw. Derrick's breath caught. Bowers. The general's eyes narrowed. "You are sure?" Derrick nodded. "He was my spotter. 10 years ago. He is supposed to be dead." Bowers stopped. He was holding something. Not a weapon. A photo. He placed it gently on the floor. Then backed away. Disappeared into the shadows. Derrick stepped forward. Picked up the photo. It was of him. And another Marine. In helmet. But someone had circled the other man's face. And written one word in red ink. Traitor. The private shivered. "What does that mean?" Derrick's voice was a whisper. "It means Bowers was not the threat. He was warning me." The general leaned in. "Then who is the real traitor?" Derrick turned the photo over. A date was scribbled there. July 4th, Fort Langston. Midnight. The private blinked. "That is a decommissioned weapons facility." The general looked grim. "Not anymore. We are going." Derrick stared at the photo. His hands trembled slightly. But his voice did not. "Then it ends there. Or begins." Above them, the courthouse sirens still wailed. But deep in the shadows of the tunnel, something else had awakened. A second set of eyes. Watching. Recording. Tracking every step. The tunnel lights flickered. Then dimmed. Derrick turned fast, weapon drawn. A whisper of movement in the dark. The general raised his hand. "Stop." The private pressed his back to the damp concrete wall. Silence. Then. Clink. Metal hit the floor behind them. A small, round object. Spinning slowly. Grenade. "Down!" Derrick yelled. They dove. But. No explosion. Just a burst of high-pitched static. Their earpieces screamed. Flashlights blinked out. A scramble of voices flooded their heads. "Derrick. Derrick, you were never supposed to make it this far." The voice was familiar. But twisted. Echoing. Like it came from the bottom of a well. Then silence. Derrick sat up slowly. Breathing hard. "This is not just about me." The general nodded. "They are sending a message." The private picked up the device. It was still warm. Coated with military symbols. But not from any division he recognized. Black Ops level. Untraceable. They moved fast now. Through the last stretch of tunnel. Up a ladder. Into the night air. The city glowed behind them. But ahead. Darkness. The horizon broken by one thing. The skeletal frame of Fort Langston. It sat miles away. Desert winds blowing around its rusted towers. Abandoned for years. Or so everyone believed. The general checked his watch. 5 hours until midnight. We gear up. We go in. Derrick nodded. But said nothing. His mind was racing. That photo. The word traitor. The circled face. It was not Bowers. It was someone else. Someone he trusted once. Someone still alive. The last person he ever expected. His old commanding officer. Colonel Nathan Hale. The man who gave him the kill orders in Kandahar. The man who told him to forget what he saw. The man who vanished a month after Derrick's report disappeared. And now. A shadow over Fort Langston. Derrick clenched his fists. Eyes fixed on the base in the distance. If Hale is alive, he whispered. Then he is the one who buried everything. The general placed a satellite phone on the hood of a truck. Typed coordinates. And called in an encrypted channel. We are going in quiet, he said. No reinforcements. No air support. If we fail, there is no record we were ever there. Derrick stared at the map. 3 entry points. 2 guards spotted through drone feed. Thermal signatures near the sublevels. This place was not abandoned, he said. They just stopped telling people it existed. The private loaded his gear. Why now? Why pull this thread after all these years? Derrick looked at him. Flat, cold stare. Because someone is preparing for something bigger. And I got too close. The general pointed to a side gate. Bowers left that clue for a reason. We enter there. Stealth. No shots. Unless fired upon. Derrick slid a knife into his belt. No promises. The wind howled across the desert. The moon dipped behind the clouds. And in the shadows of Fort Langston. A sensor blinked. Red. Then green. An old monitor turned on. Deep below the base. And Colonel Nathan Hale looked up. Gray hair. Eyes sharp. A scar above his eyebrow. He smiled. Cold. Calculated. He whispered to the empty room. I knew you would come. Then pressed a single button. Wake Unit 6. Buried deep beneath Fort Langston. A heavy vault hissed open. And a figure stepped out. Helmeted. Armored. But the voice was still human. Barely. Target, Cole. Orders. Hale smiled again. Terminate. Derrick crouched behind a sand dune. Night goggles lit his vision in eerie green. Ahead, Fort Langston loomed. Steel. Stone. Shadow. Dead silent, on the surface. But beneath, Derrick could feel it. Something breathing. Moving. Waiting. The general's voice cracked softly through the calm. 2 guards. West entrance. Armed. Derrick signaled. 3 fingers up. Countdown. 3. He moved into position. 2. Blade drawn. 1. They struck like ghosts. Silent. Precise. The guards dropped without a sound. The private dragged them into the brush. They slipped through the gate. No alarms. Too easy. Derrick's gut twisted. This is a trap, he said. The general nodded. They want us inside. They moved through rusted corridors. Old signs. Radiation warnings. Maintenance logs from 1998. But the floors. Clean. Too clean. Then a sound. Mechanical. Metal scraping metal. The private froze. What is that? They turned a corner. And stopped cold. A wall of screens. Dozens. Each showing a different place. Satellite feeds. City streets. Military bases. And one. Derrick's apartment. Live. The general cursed. They are watching everything. The private backed away. Sir, look. Another screen lit up. A feed from within Fort Langston. A steel room. Frost on the walls. Inside. A figure. 7 feet tall. Wearing a combat exosuit. Breathing slow. Heavy. Controlled. Is that a man? The general's voice was tight. No. That is Unit 6. The screen zoomed in. The helmet lifted. And Derrick's world tilted. The face beneath. Was him. Older. Scarred. Expression blank. Like a machine. No, Derrick whispered. That is not possible. The general stared. I was afraid of this. They cloned you. Derrick backed away. They used my DNA. The private's hands shook. That thing is built to replace you. To erase you. An unstoppable assassin. Suddenly. The screens glitched. Lines across the images. A new message appeared. Welcome home, Sergeant Cole. Let US finish what you started. Then the doors slammed shut. Steel bars dropped. Lights flickered red. The floor beneath their feet began to hum. Vibrating. Rising heat. The general pulled out a breaching charge. No time. Stand back. He placed it on the door. 5 seconds. Boom. They pushed through. Smoke filling their lungs. Alarms blaring. Then. A sound. Heavy footsteps. Marching. Deliberate. From the corridor ahead. Unit 6 emerged. Armor black as ash. Eyes glowing faint blue. It spoke. In Derrick's voice. You are obsolete. You are unfinished. You are weak. Derrick raised his weapon. His hand was steady. No. I am real. Unit 6 tilted its head. Not for long. Then it charged. Faster than any human. Derrick dove. Bullets slammed into the walls. The general fired. Sparks flew off the armor. But it did not stop. The private screamed, "Flank it." Derrick rolled behind a column. Pulled 2 EMP grenades from his pack. Primed. Tossed. They exploded with a blinding flash. Unit 6 staggered. Sparks burst from its limbs. It fell. But began crawling forward. Terminate, terminate. Derrick sprinted. Jumped. Drove a blade into a joint behind its head. Wires snapped. The eyes dimmed. Unit 6 froze. Then collapsed. Smoke rising from its back. The private stared, wide-eyed. Is it dead? Derrick stood over it. Breathing hard. I do not think it was ever alive. Suddenly, a voice boomed through the intercom. Slow. Measured. Hale. Well done, Sergeant. But that was only a preview. Come find me. If you are brave enough. Derrick looked at the general. Jaw clenched. Time to end this. And somewhere deep below, a massive vault door hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with tanks, each holding a figure. Not one. Not two. Dozens. All with his face. All waiting. Derrick stared through the reinforced glass. Rows of tanks stretched into darkness. Each one lit in pale blue. Each one held a version of him. Some younger. Some scarred. Some with cybernetic implants. All motionless. But breathing. The private whispered, "They cloned you." An entire army. The general's face was pale. This is not a weapon program. This is a coup. Derrick stepped forward. His reflection merged with the clones behind the glass. They were not building a better soldier. They were building a replacement. Suddenly, a slow clap echoed through the corridor. Colonel Nathan Hale emerged from a side door. Older. But sharp. Eyes bright with madness. Bravo, Sergeant Cole. You made it further than any version of you. Derrick raised his weapon. You lied to me. You buried the truth. Killed good men. Hale smirked. I created truth. These clones, they are pure. No fear. No doubt. No disobedience. Derrick's finger hovered on the trigger. You murdered their souls before they even woke up. Hale's hand slipped to a small remote. I would not shoot if I were you. You take me out, and every tank here opens. 40 of you, without conscience. The general stepped beside Derrick. We shut it down. Now. Derrick's mind raced. Let me talk to them. The private blinked. What? Derrick holstered his weapon. Moved to the console. Hale narrowed his eyes. You think you can reason with weapons? Derrick tapped into the PA system. Spoke into the mic. To anyone who can hear me in those tanks. My name is Sergeant Derrick Cole. You are not just parts. You are not just copies. You are not him. He pointed at Hale. He sees you as tools. I see you as people. If you wake up, choose your path. Not his. Silence. Then. One of the tanks blinked. The clone inside opened his eyes. Looked directly at Hale. Then, another. Then another. Derrick whispered, override the release. The general hacked into the system. Fingers flying. Hale lunged. Gun drawn. But before he could fire. Bang. The private shot first. Hale dropped. Blood spreading. The remote skidded across the floor. Derrick picked it up. Hands shaking. One press. All tanks would open. He stared at the button. Then crushed the remote under his boot. The system shorted. The tanks went dark. Sleep mode. Safe. The general exhaled. It is over. Derrick looked at the clones behind the glass. Some still staring at him. Silent. Watching. He whispered, rest. For now. They left Fort Langston behind. Called in a classified lockdown. Every hallway sealed. Every record scrubbed. Weeks passed. Then months. Derrick returned to civilian life. But the shadows never fully lifted. Sometimes at night. He dreamed of the other hymns. Watching. Waiting. Not evil. Just unfinished. And one day, in a crowded train station, he caught a glimpse. A man. His face. But different. Smiling. And gone in the crowd. Derrick paused. Then smiled too. Because the truth was out. And even in the dark, he was no longer alone. The end.